Hello and welcome back to part 4 of this little video series that we've been creating. We've been talking so far about WordPress, and in video 1 we talked about setting up WordPress and the navigation and how to work your way around the dashboard. In video 2 we talked about posts and pages, custom post types and the taxonomies that are available. In video 3 we talked about the theme and the appearance and some of the customizer settings, and today in video 4 we're going to be talking about plugins. Now, as I've mentioned in previous videos, plugins is your way to add additional functionality to your WordPress website. You plug in additional code, and there are lots of free plugins and there are lots of premium plugins. You can also custom build your own plugins. Now, here is the general rule of thumb. Before you install a plugin, ask yourself the question, do I really need this? There is a tendency for people who are unaware to go on what is called a plugin rampage and download everything, almost like a fear of missing out if they don't have it. And I'm here to tell you now that that is not the best way forward. When you have too many plugins on your website, it can slow your website down. It can affect your performance. It can also cause conflicts. One of the biggest challenges with WordPress websites is conflicts between plugins, because plugin authors don't need to talk to each other. They don't need to follow the same practice. And so whilst plugins need to follow some things to be included in WordPress, it could be that you create your own plugin, the code is really bad, you may buy a plugin, the code is really bad, it hasn't been approved by WordPress, and you may end up breaking your site. The plugin may get compromised from a security hack, and you may end up getting yourself hacked or having some vulnerability issues. There could be slow performance issues. Again, your website might stop working altogether. And a really good quote that I once heard was that it is not about the quantity of the plugins that you use on your website, it is about the quality. You could have 100 plugins all working harmoniously together, but you could install one plugin that corrupts everything. So you need to be very, very careful when you add plugins to only ensure that you add the ones that you absolutely need. I would always say that before you add a new plugin, it is ideal that you back up your website first. That way, if it causes any challenges or any problems, you can go back to before you even had that website, that plugin. And the reason that I say that is because when you add a plugin, most of the time it will insert code into the database. And if it does that and then you remove the plugin, often it will leave that code in the database. And what that means is that you will get a bloated database that becomes quite big and quite heavy, or if it does remove that code from the database, it may accidentally remove something else. It could corrupt the database. And whilst this doesn't happen often, it's better to be protected. So always, always, always have a backup before you add, remove, or update any of your plugins. Also, whilst we're on this topic, if you ever have a problem with your website, the first place that anybody will look and the first thing that anybody will say to you is, have you disabled all of your plugins and are you using a generic default theme? Most of the issues that happen within WordPress happen within the theme or within the plugins. WordPress itself is extremely secure and very, very stable when it is used in its native environment with its default settings. As soon as you start to install custom themes or free or paid themes or custom plugins, either free or paid, then you start to compromise some of the integrity of that stability and that performance. So you really need to be aware of only installing the plugins that are relevant to you. Now, with that being said, for the purpose of this video and to make this easier and quicker, I have preloaded all of the plugins that I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to show you them now. So by clicking on installed plugins, these are all of the plugins which I have ready, and I'm going to talk through them. Now, you may not need all of these, but these are my go-to plugins. These are the plugins that I will use on most sites that I build, and I'm going to explain them to you. Now, I'm not going to start at the top and work my way down, and the reason I'm not going to do that is because that is not the order that I would normally install them. So let's just look through here and let's look at a few that we can install. Now, I've mentioned from day one at the start about working with a page builder, and for the purpose of these videos and for all of my academy and everything I teach, we use Elementor. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to activate Elementor. Now your screen will be slightly different to this. So let me just delete this plugin now, and let me take you to the screen that you will see, which will be clicking on the Add New at the top. This is the WordPress repository for plugins, and this allows you to create or to search and to go through all of the plugins that are available. And as I mentioned, some of these are good. The best way to see is how many installs does it have. So this has 5 million plus active installs with a rating of 1,644 4-star reviews. It was last updated 2 months ago, and we know that it is compatible with our version of WordPress, so that's good. Now, this is a contact form. If you wanted to add a contact form to your website, you could use this one. I personally don't. I use a different one. I use a plugin called Gravity Forms for this, and I'll talk about that later, but for now, this is an option. Yoast to improve your SEO. Now, Team Yoast, run by a gentleman called Juice de Volk over in the Netherlands, over 5 million active installs, 26,000 5-star reviews, updated a week ago. We can see that it's regularly updated, it's very well loved, it's very well used, it's compatible. We know that just by looking at this, we can see it's a good plugin. And if we wanted to get more details, we can do that here. By looking at all of the information, we can see all of the reviews. We can see all of the team, we can look at all of the FAQs, what is called the change log, any screenshots, reviews. We can go through and we can look at those. I think it's showing up at the moment, but normally we'd be able to see that information. And so just some things to consider there. Now I am, for the purpose of this, going to type in Elementor because we know which plugin we want. So we type in Elementor or Elementor. We can see 2 million active installations, 5-star reviews, 3.7 thousand 5-star, updated 6 hours ago. So we're going to go and install now the latest version. Some of these third-party add-ons, you may want to use them, you may not. I don't recommend a lot of them. They slow down your site, as I mentioned. They can cause bugs. And also, you're always going to be reliant on the developer updating this. If a developer stops updating this plugin and it breaks, because of the core plugin, then you may end up with a website that doesn't work because you've relied on it too heavily. So always try to not rely on third-party plugins to core plugins where possible, and only use plugins that you absolutely need. So now that we have this installed, you would normally click Activate here. I'm just going to take you back to this screen to show you that you can also do it from here. I'm going to click Activate. Now what I want you to watch is on the left hand side when I click Activate. You're going to see it's going to refresh, and now we can see we have 2 brand new options, Elementor and Templates. So I want to go through all of these. I'm not going to go through Elementor now. I'm not going to talk about this. We'll do that in a different video. Elementor has the option to go pro and you can upgrade. If I wanted to, I could go for the Pro version, which here it says is $49 per year for one site. If you are a member of the Online Mastery Academy and you have the Academy Plus membership, then you will get automatically a developer license because we have it for 1,000 sites, so we will give you one of those as part of the membership. But if not, you can purchase it yourself, and I'm just going to go and activate that now. And by activating this, you can now see that I have the Pro version. The Pro version's now disappeared, and I now have Elementor and Elementor Pro, and it is asking me to activate my license. Now, it is very important to understand that when you purchase a plugin, that all plugins within WordPress technically fall under the GPL license, and the general purpose license means that they are free. So you may be asking yourself, well, why, if WordPress is free, and why, if it is under the GPL, why am I paying? And the reason is you're paying for 2 reasons. One is to support the developers and to support the team that create these so they can continue to create them and support them. And 2 is you're actually paying for support. If you have a problem, you're paying for the support. And because of the pricing model that plugins use, you'll now see that these are per year. So what this is giving you is, Yes, it's giving you all of these things, but you could get all of these things if you were looking. You could get them for free anyway. I'm not saying you should. I don't advocate this, but I am saying you could. What you are really paying for is updates and support, and that is what this price is. The price is for a year's worth of support and updates, and so it is worth costing this in and accepting that you will want to pay this. Now, some people will use what is called a nulled plugin, Nulled, and a nulled plugin is like a cracked piece of software. It bypasses the license registration, and anybody that has hacked the code to bypass a license registration, not only are you not supporting the developers, not only are you not supporting the ecosystem, but also you are probably downloading a virus or some form of extra code that you don't expect, and it may not happen straight away, but I would almost guarantee pretty much 100% of the time you will end up with a website that does not work. You will compromise your website by using a nulled plugin. So I highly discourage that activity, and I recommend that the only reason you are aware of it now is because I've mentioned it, and the only reason that I've mentioned it is so that you can avoid it. I do not recommend going down that route. If you cannot afford to buy a plugin, you have two options. One, reach out to the development team, reach out to them and say, hi, I cannot afford this plugin, but I really want it. Is there anything I can do? Is there anything at all I can do? And some plugin authors, in return for exposure, they may say that if you sell two plugins to someone else, then we'll give you a free license. They may say if you do a blog post that has a certain amount of traction, they may give you it to test on like a free trial. There are ways around it. You can get the plugins. Or what you could also do, and again, I don't necessarily recommend this, but I do advocate it over using anything cracked or hacked or nulled, is to pick up a client that needs a website and to purchase this on behalf of the client and to invoice the client for the plugin, and that way you can technically use it as well. Again, I do recommend that you abide by this and you use it for yourself, but if you were to maybe charge the client $100 for free sites, then maybe you could have one of those sites or even two of them, because the client only needs one, and the client's not going to know the difference between paying $49 a year or paying $99 up front. So that is just something that you could consider, something that you could do. I'm just giving you different options and things to consider. So that is the first plugin and the first thing for you to look at when you are installing your plugins. Let's just look at the additional plugins that I recommend that we set up as we go through our website. So because at the moment with Elementor there are a couple of things that it doesn't do as well as I would like it to do, we have to extend the functionality, and one of those is having a central color palette. So there is a plugin called Central Color Palette, and we can activate that, and what that does is that if we hover over our settings, we will see now we have the central color palette options, and we can open this up. And what this will do is it will allow us to open up a color palette and to create all of the different colors that we want, and we can integrate to both the Astra theme and also into Elementor. You can just tick all of these, that's absolutely fine. Create your color palette based on your brand guidelines, whatever your colors will need to be, and then simply by saving that will now have all of these colors, and they'll be integrated with Elementor. The reason I do this, as I mentioned, is because the color picker options are currently available in Elementor as of 2.67. They're just not as good as I would like them to be, and so that is why I use that plugin. Now, when Elementor updates their color picker, it could be that we remove this plugin, but I've tested it, it works very well, and so I use that. Another plugin which I use, and I'm just going to put this one in right now, is Gravity Forms. Now I use Gravity Forms instead of Contact Form 7. Now Contact Form 7 is a free plugin and you can use it, but I much prefer Gravity Forms. It has a lot more functionality and a lot more capability. And by enabling this plugin, we can now see forms on the left-hand side. We can go and create new forms. We can use this for opt-in forms, contact forms, quizzes, surveys, user registration. We can even use it to create front-end posts. So we can have users create posts. Maybe we've got content creators and we don't need to give them access to the website. They can just simply go to a page, a hidden page, and they can fill in the form that we create, and it will create a post that will put it into a pending review, which means it won't be live on the website, but it will allow you to go in to make sure you're happy with it, to check it, and to tick it as published. So really, really good features available throughout Gravity Forms. One of the most important is the ability to create what is called conditional logic, and that will show certain questions or certain fields or certain forms based on other actions. And it's really cool because what that allows us to do, for example, is create a form where the very first question is, what is your name? And the second question could be, hello Steve, thanks very much for answering the first question. So we can customize the forms and it gives us a lot of flexibility. It's quite nice and easy to use. So I highly recommend it. It's a paid premium plugin, but I do recommend it if you can afford it. If not, Contact Form 7 will work. Pixel Caffeine is another one that I use and I recommend, and so the reason I use this is a free plugin from Adespresso. But just to show you how it works, it's automatically redirected me to this plugin. Some do this, some don't, it depends. So this not only has enabled the plugin and put it here on the side, it's taken me to it, giving me a dashboard. So there's a video you can watch. I can click Setup Now, and when I click Setup Now, I connect to Facebook, and this will install the Facebook tracking pixel throughout my website. Very, very handy to have this. I highly recommend it, and we can see it there under Pixel Caffeine. So let's just come back now to plugins. And as I scroll down, just having a look. So I did mention that Astra is a free theme, but there is a Pro update. And the Pro update is a plugin here called Astra Pro. And if you do purchase or need it, you can upgrade. I use it for a couple of things, but you don't need it. You don't need it. And all that this does is, by now coming into the Astra options, it's allowed me to add in these Pro modules. Now, the only two Pro modules that I use are the colors and backgrounds and the typography. And what this basically does, if I open this, I just click on it to open it. I'm not going to use it there, sorry. I'm going to come into Customize. So by having this enabled, if I come back into the Customizer, you'll remember from the previous video, this will now give me a lot of, if I go into colors and backgrounds, there's a lot more options now. A lot more options, a lot of things to do. And if I click on this, this is now pulling all of those colors from the color palette, the central color palette that we used. So we can set them all as standard, and whenever we click on them, they will be available. We can still use whatever we want, but now we can use these ones. And there's much more than 8 that are currently. If you use Elementor, you're only allowed 8. Astra only limits us as well, but now we have a much bigger range if we need them. So good to know for that purpose. So again, highly recommend using Astra Pro if you want that additional functionality and some additional features there, but not required. You don't need the paid version. So for now, we're not going to talk about anywhere Elementor Pro. I'm going to leave that one for now. Asset Cleanup Pro is a good plugin by a friend of mine, Gabriel. He has created this. It allows you to speed up your website. And the reason it does this is because all of these plugins will have scripts that they load, and they will load on every page. And what Asset Cleanup Pro does is it allows you to go into the page and remove the scripts. So if you have a page that is not using Gravity Forms, for example, there is no form on the page, so there is no need to be loading this script. And I'm just going to go ahead and quickly show you this. I'm going to activate it. I'm going to go to my page, and let's just say we're going to go to my home page. So I click on home page. Now you can see there are some additional things here. This is what this plugin does. It gives us this additional functionality at the bottom that when I click on it, this opens up. So now what I can do is I can say from plugins, and I can look at the plugins that are loaded from the theme. I can look at the things that are loaded, and I can go through here all of these different things, and I can actually remove them if they're not needed. So let's just say, for example, we're not going to use Elementor on this page. Then what I could do is, if I'm not going to use Elementor Pro, I can unload on this page. There we go. So I can actually check all, and now what it's going to do is it's removed Elementor Pro from this particular page. Now, I'm not going to do that because we are going to use Elementor Pro, but I'm using it as an example. It just shows you how you can clean up a lot of scripts that are not needed just to keep your site as clean as it can possibly be. And if for any reason you need to disable this, and I recommend disabling this from all checkout pages or anything where you need to update the page without refreshing it, then we can simply just turn this off and we can say do not use, and we can untick all of these and do the different things that we need to remove. So some good options there. In the page, when we were editing the page, because we're using Astra, you'll see a lot of things here have now changed. So the page itself, as we remember it from the previous video, there is now Astra settings. So we can choose a sidebar on a page by page basis. We first did this in the global settings from the customize in appearance, but now what we can do is say, well, actually, I do want a sidebar. I want this sidebar to appear when I look at the home page. So maybe I just want a sidebar on the home page. So what I can do is I can say I'm going to have a right sidebar. I want to have a right sidebar. I can refresh, and now as you can see I have a sidebar on the home page. Also, maybe I don't want the home page to be fully stretched. Maybe I want the home page to be boxed. So now what I can do is I can update the content layout of the home page, and now it's going to be boxed. So now we have a boxed home page, and you can see how it looks. So there's a lot of things that we can change and we can do here based on our site and what we want. Now I'm just going to change these back to the customizer settings and update. So it shows you how you can change your settings on a page by page basis as well as on a global basis. So a lot of additional functionality by adding some of these plugins. I'm now going to go ahead, scroll to the very bottom here, and I'm going to add a plugin called Yoast. We saw this one, it's the SEO. Now that we have Yoast SEO, you can see it here. There's a lot of additional things, and I've got separate videos for each and every one of these plugins. I'm not going to go into them in too much detail now because I cover them later. But if I come back to pages now and I click on the home page, you're now going to see Yoast SEO. And I can use a focus keyword. There's going to be a lot of things that I can do where it's going to give me some more functionality based on SEO for this page. Now, if I was to say that I want my focus keyword to be framework, what this is going to do is it's going to look and it's going to give me an analysis of all of the things that I need to do on this page in order for this page to be SEO ready for that keyword. And if I go ahead and now update this page, what you're going to notice is if I come back to the overview, you can see that there are now dots. These are new columns that have been added by Yoast. This is your SEO score and this is your readability score. And we can see the dots, whether they're good or bad, and you can make improvements as required. You can even now filter by SEO. So there's lots of things that you can do based on the plugins that you add, which is another reason why you should make sure that you only add the plugins that have the functionality you need. If you need to do one very small thing, is it really worth adding a really complex, powerful plugin just to do that one thing? And I'll give you a fantastic example of that. It might be that within the menu, and let's just come back to the menu, let's come to appearance menus. It might just be that in the menu, if I open up the let's just add a new link. Okay, so I'm going to add a custom link here and I'm going to call it login. Okay, don't worry about the page for now. We're not actually going to use it. I'm just doing it as an example. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add login. Now, if I open this, there are a few things that we can do here. We can change the URL, we can change the navigation label, but that's about it. So now if I come back to the plugins and I add a new plugin, I'm going to add a plugin which, as I scroll down, you're going to see it is called User Menus by a company called Jungle Plugins. I'm going to activate User Menus. Now, by activating User Menus, now look, you can see it's given us this notification. I might just say no to this. You can close a lot of these things down, get rid of them. Some of these nag bars won't disappear until you... Some of them are quite naughty. Some of them are intrusive. But overall, you want to try and get rid of them if you can because they get in the way. But now let's come back to menus. And because I've added that plugin for the user nav bars and I refresh, if I now I now do this again. So let's just add this login again, add menu. It didn't save because I didn't click save menu. If I now open this, there is a new feature here, who can see this link. And this could be to logged out or logged in users. Now, if somebody's logged in, I'm not going to want them to see the login tab. So this is only for logged out users. And let's create another one and call it account. Okay, and let's just say that the account, we're going to add this one. We only want the account to be viewable to people who are logged in. Okay, and we can even choose which role. So we can have specific links for specific roles. So let's save that menu. Let's come back to the site itself. And now, because we don't have a header here to show you, because I turned it off, I didn't save it. Now we can see the footer that's been added. This is the Elementor Footer. And we're actually using now a header from Elementor because I pre-built these. Now this is stuff that I've already done. I appreciate you may be like, well, what's this? Why has it changed? And I'll explain this in another video. The next video that I do, I'll go into Elementor to explain it a bit more. But for now, we don't need to worry too much. So I can just remove all of these extra things, come back to the plugins. But what would happen is that this plugin that I enabled, the user menus, the login will only show if you're logged out and the account will only show if you're logged in. Now there is another plugin that does this and it's called Ultimate Member, and it is a very complex plugin that does different levels of memberships, does a lot of different things, but ultimately it has this the functionality of this plugin is built into Ultimate Member. Now I don't need all of Ultimate Member's functionality. I only wanted the ability to hide and show the user menus, so I can get away with using this much more lightweight plugin rather than using the complex heavy one. So just shows you something there. Another plugin that I want to talk about very quickly is White Label CMS. This is if you want to remove a lot of the WordPress. So by a great guy called Troy Dean has created this plugin, his company video user manuals and WP Elevation. Highly recommend checking them out. If you are going to be building websites for other people, it may be that you want to clean up. So if I now come to settings, we'll now see we have the ability to go into White Label CMS. What I can do here is I can hide the WordPress logo and links. So we'll see that has been removed from in the top corner. We can hide the version, we can customize a lot of the different things here, change a lot of the stuff, update a lot of the information, even down to the login page, down to the dashboard, lots of different stuff. So now if I save this and come back to the dashboard, even down to the menus, we can want to hide menus from your clients, so we can choose what do we want to hide. And we can start hiding certain things. So maybe I don't want a client to be able to go in and edit the appearance. So what I can do is I can choose all of the things within here and I can save that, and then it will disappear. It will no longer be available. It's to me because I'm the master admin, but it might be that for the clients, if a client visits it, that won't be available. So we can hide things. Very, very powerful plugin to have. It's a free plugin. Very, very good one to have if you want to customize things. What this also lets you do is create custom dashboards here. You can create sections in Elementor with videos and introduction text, and you can even have an introduction video here saying welcome to your new website. It's a really good way to personalize the experience when a new user first logs in, rather than the standard unfriendly WordPress dashboard that you would normally get. So a really good plugin to be able to do that. Okay, so just to finish off very quickly, cart flows, I'm not going to talk about that at the moment, but I do use cart flows and cart flows pro. It is still a baby plugin. It's not even a year old, and there is a lot that needs to be done to improve this, but it has got a good development team behind it. The same development team behind this are the guys that are behind the Astra theme, so do recommend it. Element Extras is an add-on for Element. You can use it. I have it here as an option, but not going to use it for this purpose. One that I do like and I do recommend is Ultimate Add-Ons for Elementor. We can use this. This again is another one from Brainstorm Force, which is the guys that made the Astra theme. They also made this. Very, very good. If you want to take payments and you want a shopping cart, then you'll want to install WooCommerce. We can activate WooCommerce and it will take you through a setup process. When you go through that setup process, you will install some pages, you'll install some things that you need. It will automatically install your checkout gateways, and so for your payments, I always recommend PayPal and Stripe as your gateways for your processing your payments. So you will use WooCommerce as your e-commerce shop, and then you will use Stripe and PayPal as your processing gateways to take payments. And you can also, if you want to, you don't need this, but this is a much more updated WooCommerce admin. So this is everything that you need for WooCommerce to work. You might also want subscriptions. You can get WooCommerce subscriptions, but that is a paid plugin. All of these ones so far are free. And now, as you can see on the left-hand side, we have WooCommerce. I can click on the dashboard. This is going to give me all of my shop information that you can see. All of the stuff here around the shop. This is using WooCommerce admin. It's also going to give me analytics, which I can open up and I can see. So I can go through all of my analytics, see all of the stuff that we've done here, and I can create new products. So if I need to, I can come in here, create new products. And now what this also means is that if I go to, now I won't have to do this because this will do it automatically. However, for the purpose of this video, I've already done it. And so I'm going this way to re-add them. In WooCommerce status, in the tools, I'm just popping into the tools here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to scroll down and it's going to say create default WooCommerce pages. Now if I create the default WooCommerce pages, and I now come back to pages, if I click on pages, you can see now I have a cart page, I have a checkout page, I have a my account page and a shop page. These are all new pages. So if I now go to framework/shop, because I'm using the Astra theme and because I'm using WooCommerce, I've now got a shop. Here's a product. If I click on this product, I can view the product. I can add the product to my cart. I can now view my cart. This is my cart. I can proceed to my checkout. And once I'm in my checkout, I can then edit my information. I can pay, continue to payment. I'm using PayPal. All of that information is there. So we now have a fully working online shop. As easy as that. Now obviously you can go in and you can customize this, do a lot more to it, and I'm not going to cover that in this video, but I'm just showing you how easy it is to get set up initially. Once that's done, I'm going to come back to plugins. And the only other thing that I want to talk about at the moment is Learn-Dash. If I was to activate the Learn-LMS, now this is a paid plugin, this will give you the ability to create online courses. So if you should want an online course, and my entire online academy is built in Learn-Dash, we can come into here, we can look at all of the available courses, and it will give us the there's no courses here at the moment, so I can create a new course. And it will then give us the ability to go and to teach and to show and to create courses. So there is the ability to do that through Learn-Dash. So I recommend Learn-Dash, I recommend WooCommerce, I recommend Gravity Forms. If you are using a CRM system, and if you've listened to any of my videos, you know that I advocate this and I can't advocate it enough. A CRM is a customer relationship management system, and it is the brains of your business. A website is great, but you really need to be tracking the information of the people that visit your website. You need to be building up a picture of those people, and then you need to be nurturing those people to purchase from you. That is all done through a CRM. And we connect WordPress to our CRM using a plugin called WP Fusion. A very, very good gentleman by the name of Jack created this from very good plugins. And just so that you know, I actually hired Jack to build this plugin. I'm a co-founder of WP Fusion, and it is an absolute necessity on every single site that we build. This is an absolute must. And Jack, over the last 5 years, has done phenomenal things with this plugin. This is one of the most important plugins that you will own on your WordPress plugin list. So I highly recommend either getting a free version to start or upgrading to a paid version. Support Jack. He's a great guy, great guy to know. And if you ever pop over to the WP Fusion website, just tell him that Steve Woody sent you, and I'm sure he'll look after you as a result. So those are all of the plugins that I've enabled so far. I'm not going to enable the Elementor extras because we don't need it for this purpose. I'm now going to autocomplete WooCommerce Orders is another good one to have. This is if you have a virtual product and not a physical product. If you have a virtual product, you can come into WooCommerce, you can come into the settings. I'm just going to do this now very quickly. Come into the WooCommerce, come into the settings, and autocomplete orders is a tab here. We can click on this and it says if the order is paid, so any paid order, it will mark it from processing to complete. So one of the things that you want to know here, and if I just click on orders in WooCommerce, and if we just, let's create a new order. And again, very important for you to understand, WooCommerce is a custom post type. And it's very much set out the same way as posts and pages, but just with some additional functionality. And when we're looking at orders, okay, and we can look at our order overview. So let's just, I don't know if it's going to let me create this. Let me try. Perfect, it has. So now if I come back to the orders overview, it's very much the same as if you click on posts. All of the different archives with a single inside, and we can add new ones. You start to understand that the structure of WordPress is very similar depending on where you are. It's all set out the same way. Now if I click on this pretend order that I've created, you'll see that it is pending. Now it's going to go through some certain things here. Either pending, processing, on hold, but it will never move to complete unless you have the WooCommerce autocomplete, which means once the payment has been made, it will automatically complete. It saves you manually coming in here and marking each order as complete. Now if you want to do that, absolutely welcome to, you can. I know that I don't want to. I know that I want people to automatically purchase products, and I want this to update as complete so that it can update the CRM and do all of the things that it needs to do. Getting quite complex here, but just to give you an idea, that is why I have that plugin installed. There is another plugin that you can use, and it skips the cart. If you want to go straight from clicking a button to purchase straight to the checkout and not go via the cart, a cart is good if you have an online shop, if you're selling clothing or products and you have a lot of products and you have a big shop, then sometimes going to the cart or having a basket is a good idea. If you want to bypass that, maybe you've just got one product that you're selling, maybe you're just selling your services, then you may want to go to the plugins, add new, and install one called Direct Checkout. It's a free plugin. It's called WooCommerce Direct Checkout, and it enables you to bypass the cart and go directly to checkout. So that's another one I recommend. I don't use it, and the reason I don't use it is because I use cart flows. You can use the free cart flows. I'm not going to go into depth into this in this video. I've got a whole course on this, but for now, just know and to understand that I use cart flows and cart flows Pro. So I'm going to bulk activate both of those, and you will see on the left hand side it will now add cart flows. So that pretty much brings us down to 3 plugins. Anywhere Elementor Pro, which I'm going to enable, but I'm not going to talk about because I have a whole video dedicated to that. It is additional functionality for Elementor that lets you do things that Elementor can't do yet. I'm hoping Elementor one day will, but whilst it can't, we use this instead, and it is a very, very powerful plugin to do some amazing things to take WordPress far, far beyond its initial capabilities. So we have that there. Now, I am going to do another video. I've gone through most of these videos, but the custom post type UI and Advanced Custom Fields Pro, I feel like they require their own videos. So I'm going to do a 5th video where I cover those, and then I'm going to do a 6th video covering Elementor, and that's going to conclude the series. So hopefully so far you're enjoying everything. Please let me know, reach out and let me know how you're finding this so far. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.